We are here today. Over the past couple of months, we've had over 30 synagogues and charitable institutions that have had literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I believe running into the millions of dollars, people who have sent contributions to these organizations and synagogues. They put it in the mail, and the checks disappear. For one reason or another, the checks disappear. Okay? We have, in fact, hundreds of checks, which I will show you, but some of them are on the wall. We have checks here, sent from an organization, Jewish Communal Fund, to a local charity, $12,000. This check of $12,000 disappeared and went into a strange account. $1,500, $54, $18, $500, $600, $5,000, $1,800, $18,000. Each check in the back is endorsed by someone that we have no clue. It is not the charity, it is not the synagogue. In fact, I just want to move over here. Let me show you. The back of these checks and the hundreds of others that we have, and there might be thousands of others, have all been put into the accounts of these different groups here. World Pay Processing, which is part of the Bank of Scotland, GFX, KRUSA, SMU Charity, Israel ChangeNet. Every one of the checks and the hundreds of others have all been put into the accounts of these accounts and then put into these different banks, deposited into these banks. Florida, New York, Missouri, Israel, Ohio. And all this money has disappeared. And most people, when I write out a check, for instance, to a charity, I call my bank, did the check clear? Yes, it cleared. I don't have a clue that that money did not go to the charity, did not go to the synagogue, did not go to the organization that is desperate for funds. The money has simply disappeared. And as I said, we're talking here about millions of dollars. I mean, we have examples, like I said to you, of checks of $18,000, of huge amounts of money. And we need for the public to be aware. And this whole thing is growing. Literally every day we get others who call us and say, we've been affected, we have checks that are missing. We need the public to be aware. They need to be on the lookout. When you write out a check to charity, you've got to check with the charity. Make sure they got the money. Plead with the public. Do not stop giving charity. That is not the answer, not to give charity. These organizations, these groups need your support. I mean, this is just a list, a growing list of the different synagogues in New York, New Jersey, Michigan, all over the place, all over the city of New York in particular, institutions that have been affected. It's a really very horrible situation. And there seems to be a network of people, a conspiracy, to remove these checks, whether it's mailboxes. I don't know what it is. We'll let the FBI figure it out and apprehend the people who are capable of stealing charity, of literally taking food out of people's mouth. That's what it's all about. So we'll let the authorities figure it all out. But we have handed over, and we are handing over, a tremendous amount of information that we have gathered from the 30 different groups. Some of them who don't even want to be identified because they're scared people are going to stop giving charity to their organization. And we have put this together. I mean, why are checks made out to the Young Israel of Flatbush, a major synagogue in our community, Young Israel of Flatbush? Why does it end up with one of these groups over here, one of these accounts, and then into these banks all over the United States? What's going on? I mean, who's regulating? Who's got here? Missouri, you got New York, Florida, Ohio, New York, and Israel. Money flowing in. Checks that are made out again to an institution, and the money is going to one of these check cashing places. The back of each of these checks, here's a $12,000 check. $12,000 from the Jewish Communal Fund going to one of the groups in our community. And the back of the check has KRUSA in the back of it. It doesn't have the name of the institution, it has KR. KR is one of the check cashing places, one of the accounts where money is going into. And the same is true with all the check. Every check is the same.
Are any of these places, World Pay Processing, KRUSA, GFX, are they being helpful in the investigation now? Are they aware of what's going on?
It's more the banks that are being helpful than these over here, because these actually, I believe, without jumping, let the FBI do the work, but we believe that these are the ones that are involved in the shenanigans. The banks would have to be out of their mind to be involved in shenanigans, but why they haven't caught on to this is another story. We have talked to some of the banks. I don't want to go into the detail. I guarantee you they'll be cooperating with the FBI and the authorities.
The burden really is the charity, and the people give us to our shuls. We need the financial help. And a lot of people now are scared because sometimes they may take a check in and it could be a month or 2 months that we even find out that they, what happened to it. We call them up and say you didn't send the payment in. But sometimes somebody who wants to send a payment in, let's say for her husband who passed away, that's a big deal for her. She stretched through the snow just to give us this check, and she finds out later on that it's not, we never even got the check, and we put it in there. We took measures that when the secretary's not there, we don't have mail delivery no more. We took our mailbox down that we have in our little part of our shul where members come in every day to use. So now it's even making it more difficult for members to give us charity or give us anything to help us, even to pay their dues, because they pay the dues and then somebody else has cashed their check. So it's a very difficult situation, and we're doing what we can to make sure it doesn't happen, but it makes a strain on us and all the other shuls and synagogues. Which
it's today's difficult times. It's so difficult to raise any money you can for these organizations, and to have it just swiped away in the middle of the night by some thief just walking by and taking these checks. But and that bothers me a lot. But it also bothers me that we all think that there are controls in place in our banking system, that if you make out a check to an individual or to an organization, that there's someone at the bank looking at the endorsement to see who it is that's endorsing it. At least the name of the payee should be on the back of the check. And I have many examples here of checks where that isn't even on there. Nothing's on there. And the checks are just clearing, and we were lucky because we're very vigilant about doing our invoicing regularly because we have to keep our cash flow going, and we have people that said, no, I paid that bill, we got the canceled checks in, and that's when we discovered what was going on.
Someone called me a few weeks after, he said, you never got this check? I said, I'll check the bank. It hadn't gone through. That next day it went through. I got a copy of it from the bank and swiped it, so it wasn't cashed by him. The next month, it was a monthly check a week later. I waited to see the next check go through. Sure enough, it went through 2 days later. Someone else cashed it. And another charity called me up Saturday night. They said, today the check came in the morning. I saw it later. It was Shabbos. We didn't pick up the mail. And the time Shabbos afternoon came around, the check was gone. Sure enough, the check went through the same day with the other one. 2 different addresses in Flatbush. Check went through, cashed by the same bank. Each one had a separate stamp on it. It was a different, not their stamp, but a stamp of that synagogue.
I'd like to thank the Assemblyman and his staff for really being in the forefront of this. I just want to make one simple comment that in these economic times, fundraising is extremely difficult. One of the checks that was taken from our mailbox was from a recent arrival from the Soviet Union, who was so proud of the fact that he could contribute to the synagogue that helped him so much. When he found this out, his comment to me on the phone was, Rabbi, does this go on in America? And I said, normally not, but thank God we do have individuals who are checking into this, and we will find the culprits, and they will be arrested. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, again, we're just 2 more people, and then we'll take any questions you have. By the way, some of these checks we've identified, it can cost as little as $5 to actually make up a stamp. But 90% of the checks in the back, regardless of who they're made out to, Young Israel of Midwood, Congregation B'nai Israel, Yeshiva Darkei Noah, the back of the check has nothing relating to what the check was made out to. So who's looking at these checks? Who's deciding, hey, we're going to take the check because it's money. We might as well put it into our account. We know money that has been transferred to Israel from one account, close to $500,000. One single account. So something is very wrong, and again, we'll let the FBI figure it all out, but this has got to be a major conspiracy going on. I don't believe this could possibly be 1 or 2 people. Next, Alan Hirsch, who's the president of Congregation B'nai Israel, who was one of the first people about a month and a half ago who brought this to my attention. Alan.
Well, we found this out originally when we were sending out our dues notices and seats for the holidays. And people that normally had given us the money hadn't sent it in yet. We found that it was sent out, but we never received it. When we depend on that to keep the shul going a whole year. This is our major source of income. And when we found out, we went to the banks and we found this whole situation. What we're forgetting to say is the people that are affected, go to your bank immediately. The bank will give you a form to fill out, an affidavit of forgery. Fill out that affidavit of forgery. The bank has to make it good, but there is a statute of limitations. So go there as fast as you find this out so that you can get the money back and the synagogues or institutions can retrieve the money. It is very important that everybody find out as quickly as possible and do something about it so the institutions can get their money. Thank you again, Dov.
Absolutely. Next and finally, and then we'll take your questions, David Stern, who's the president of the Young Israel of Midland. David.
Thank you very much. I think all of the comments have been very instructive and important. I'd like to make one more suggestion to all of the institutions that are receiving checks. It's very important that you secure the mail that comes to you. And what I would suggest is either get a post office box or maybe get a lock box where people could drop off your mail. That's what we were able to do about 8 months ago when we figured out that this problem was happening. I'd also like to mention that from our investigations that we've done, we know that this is going back at least 2 years, and it's happening as of last month. So this is something that is a very, very ongoing situation, and it has to be addressed as soon as possible.
A lot of these organizations, they're little synagogues, some are big synagogues. Sometimes someone who might look like people up here actually going into the particular synagogue or office of the synagogue, and while someone is turning away, actually swiping a stack of envelopes. So it's a massive conspiracy without any question. But again, as I said, you know, I don't want to play detective. We're going to let the FBI taking this seriously. We got 3 states involved. We got banks in 4 or 5 states involved. You know, I look forward to the day that we arrest those who are capable of doing something. Whoever is doing this is sophisticated. They know what they're doing. They're getting the money into the bank. They're getting it. There's a whole system involved here in doing this that seems to be very sophisticated. So we got to put an end to it. We got to put a stop to it. And you know, we're talking about these charities. We don't know how many others are affected. I started with Alan a couple of weeks ago. There were only 5, and then a week later there were 10. Now we got over 30 different locations, and there is no doubt in my mind that's going to grow in the next 24 hours.